The morning fog was just lifting from the mountains when David stepped out of his Jeep. At the remote research camp, he had been driving for 3 days straight, following winding forest roads that seemed to lead nowhere. But somewhere in these ancient woods lived a group of people who could do something incredible. They could actually hear human emotions. David was a scientist who studied different cultures around the world. He had heard stories about this hidden community for years, but everyone thought they were just legends. Then last month, everything changed. The government wanted to build a highway through their forest home, and for the first time in generations, these people came forward to protect their land. That's when the world learned their secret. The research camp was small and simple. Just a few wooden buildings scattered among the tall pine trees. David could hear birds singing in a stream flowing nearby. It felt peaceful, but he was nervous. What if the stories weren't true? What if he had traveled all this way for nothing? He was unpacking his equipment when he heard footsteps behind him. David turned around and saw a young woman walking toward him. She had long dark hair and kind eyes, and she moved with a grace that seemed almost musical. Something about her made him feel calm. Like meeting an old friend. "You must be the researcher from the university," she said with a gentle smile. "I'm Luna. I'll be helping you understand our ways." David shook her hand and introduced himself. But as soon as Luna came closer, something strange happened. She stopped walking and tilted her head to one side, like she was listening to something he couldn't hear. Her eyes widened with surprise. "That's unusual," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "What's unusual?" David asked, confused. Luna looked at him with curiosity. "Your emotions, they're different from most people. Usually, when I meet someone new, their feelings sound like background noise. But yours are clear, like a radio station coming in perfectly." David felt his heart skip a beat. So the stories were true. Luna really could hear his emotions somehow. He had always been a logical person, someone who believed only in things he could prove. But standing here in this forest, looking into Luna's eyes, he felt something shifting inside him. "What else can you hear?" he asked quietly. Luna closed her eyes for a moment, concentrating. "You're excited about being here, but also scared. There's sadness too, something old and deep." And she paused, opening her eyes to look at him directly. "There's something else, something that's been sleeping for a long time, but now it's starting to wake up." David's mouth went dry. She was right about everything. The excitement about his research, the fear that he might be wasting his time, the sadness he still carried from losing his father 2 years ago. But what did she mean about something waking up? "How is this possible?" he asked. "Would you like me to show you?" Luna replied. She led him to a clearing where several other people from her community were gathered. They all looked at David with friendly curiosity, but he noticed they kept their distance. Luna explained that emotions could be overwhelming for her people, especially strong ones from strangers. "For us, emotions have sounds," Luna explained as they sat on a fallen log. "Fear sounds like distant thunder. Joy is like wind chimes dancing in the breeze. Anger crackles like a fire. We learn to recognize these sounds from childhood. The way you learn to recognize different voices." An older man from the group came forward. His hair was silver and his face was lined with years of wisdom. "Each person's emotions have their own signature," he said, "like a fingerprint, but one we can hear instead of see. But your emotions," Luna continued, looking at David, "they don't just make sounds. They make music, complex melodies that I've never heard before. It's beautiful, but also confusing." David felt something stirring in his chest. He had always felt different, like he experienced things more deeply than other people. His friends used to tease him for being too sensitive, too emotional. But here, in this place, it seemed like that difference might actually mean something. Over the next few hours, Luna demonstrated her gift again and again. She could tell when David was thinking about happy memories. His emotions would sound like gentle rain on leaves. When he felt frustrated by something, she described it as the sound of waves crashing against rocks. When he looked at her, She said his feelings created something like morning bird songs. "This is impossible," David said, but he was smiling. "I mean, scientifically. There's no way this could work. But you're doing it right in front of me. Our people have had this gift for thousands of years," the older man explained. "We've learned to live with it, to use it to help our community stay connected. But we've also learned to keep it secret. The outside world wouldn't understand. Then, why are you showing me?" David asked Luna, and the older man exchanged glances. "Because you're different," Luna said. "Your emotions don't hurt to listen to. Most people's feelings are like static on a radio, constant noise that we have to filter out. But yours are clear and beautiful. We've never met anyone like you." As the sun began to set, David found himself walking with Luna along a forest path. The trees around them were ancient, their branches forming a natural cathedral above their heads. He felt more relaxed than he had in years. "Can I ask you something?" David said. "When you said something was waking up in me, what did you mean?" Luna stopped walking and turned to face him. In the golden light of sunset, she looked almost magical. "I'm not sure yet," she said honestly, "but there's something in your heart that's been quiet for a very long time. Being here, meeting us, it's like you're remembering something you forgot you knew." That night, David lay in his sleeping bag in the research camp, staring up at the stars through the trees. His mind was racing with everything he had learned. These people weren't just hearing emotions, they were experiencing a form of connection that science couldn't explain. But what puzzled him most was Luna's reaction to him. Why were his emotions so different? Why could she hear them so clearly when others sounded like noise? And what was this thing that was supposedly waking up inside him as he drifted off to sleep? David's last thought was about the way Luna had looked at him when she described his emotions as music. There had been something in her eyes, recognition, maybe, or hope. Like she had been waiting her whole life to hear the melody his heart was making. Little did he know that his arrival would change everything for both of them, and for the entire community. The connection between them was just beginning to form, and its power would prove to be far greater than either of them could imagine. 3 weeks had passed since David first arrived at the forest camp, and everything had changed. What started as a simple research project had become something much deeper. Every morning, he would wake up excited to spend another day learning about Luna's people and their incredible gift. But if he was being honest with himself, he was mostly excited to see Luna. She had become his guide into this hidden world, patiently explaining things that science couldn't touch. They would spend hours together, walking through the forest as she taught him about her community's traditions. David found himself hanging on every word she said, not just because of his research, but because something about her voice made him feel at home. "Tell me more about how the emotions sound," David asked one afternoon as they sat by the stream that ran through the camp. Luna smiled and closed her eyes, listening to something only she could hear. "Right now, your curiosity sounds like leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. But there's something else." She paused, her brow furrowing slightly. "It's getting stronger every day, like a song that starts quiet but keeps growing louder." David felt his heart speed up. "What kind of song?" "I don't know how to describe it," Luna said, opening her eyes to look at him. "It's unlike anything I've ever heard before. Most people's emotions are simple, one sound at a time. But yours create layers, like a whole orchestra playing together. And lately, it's been overwhelming." That evening, David noticed Luna seemed troubled. She kept rubbing her temples and stepping away from groups of people, even her own family. When he asked if she was all right, she just smiled and said she was fine. But David was learning to read her expressions, and he could tell something was wrong. The next morning, Luna didn't meet him at their usual spot by the research station. David waited for an hour before going to look for her. He found her sitting alone on a hill overlooking the forest, looking tired and stressed. "Luna, what's happening?" he asked, sitting down beside her. She was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the trees. "I need to tell you something," she finally said, "about what's been happening between us." David felt his stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "My grandmother is the spiritual leader of our people," Luna began. She's been watching us, listening to how my gift responds to you. Yesterday, she told me something that changed everything. Luna turned to face him, and David could see worry in her eyes. She said that once in many generations, someone like you appears. Someone whose emotions don't just make sounds for us, they make music. Perfect, beautiful music that calls to our hearts. Is that a bad thing? David asked, confused. It can be. Luna said quietly, because when we find someone like you, we can't help but be drawn to them. Your emotions become like a song we can't get out of our heads. And the stronger your feelings become, the louder the music gets. David was beginning to understand. And my feelings are getting stronger every day, Luna whispered. When you're happy, I hear symphonies. When you're sad, it's like the whole world is crying with you. And when you look at me, she stopped, unable to finish the sentence. When I look at you, what? David asked gently. Luna's cheeks turned red. When you look at me, your emotions create the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. Like every good thing in the world singing together. It's wonderful, but it's also becoming too much. I can barely focus on anything else. David felt his heart break a little. He had been falling for Luna without even realizing it, and now he was learning that his feelings were actually hurting her. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know. It's not your fault, Luna said quickly. You can't control how you feel. But my grandmother says this has happened before, long ago. She told me about my great-great-grandmother who met someone like you. The connection was so strong that it nearly destroyed her ability to function normally. They sat in silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. David watched the wind move through the trees and tried to imagine what his emotions sounded like to Luna. He had never thought of feelings as having sounds before, but now he couldn't stop wondering what melody his heart was creating. What happened to your great-great-grandmother? David asked. She learned to live with it, Luna said. But it took years of practice, and she had to stay away from the person who caused it. They could never be together the way they wanted to be. David felt a pain in his chest that he had never experienced before. The thought of having to stay away from Luna, of never being able to explore whatever was growing between them, was unbearable. There has to be another way, he said. Luna looked at him with sad eyes. My grandmother thinks there might be, but it would require something that's never been tried before. What is it? She wants to meet with you tomorrow. She says there are old stories, ancient traditions that might help. But David, Luna reached out and touched his hand. It would mean big changes. For both of us, changes that can't be undone. At night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Luna's words, about the music his emotions supposedly created, about the connection that was growing stronger every day. He had come to this forest to study a unique culture, but instead he had found something that challenged everything he thought he knew about human connection. He thought about his life back home, his job at the university, his small apartment, his quiet routine. It all seemed so empty now compared to the richness of what he had found here. The way Luna's eyes lit up when she talked about her people's traditions, the way she seemed to understand him without words, the way he felt more alive in her presence than he had ever felt before. But he also thought about what Luna had told him about her great-great-grandmother, how the connection had nearly destroyed her, how she had to stay away from the person she cared about. David couldn't bear the thought of causing Luna that kind of pain. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, David made a decision. Whatever Luna's grandmother wanted to discuss, whatever ancient tradition she had in mind, he would listen, because staying away from Luna wasn't an option anymore. Somehow, in just 3 weeks, she had become the most important person in his world. The music his emotions created might be getting louder, but David was beginning to understand that it wasn't just noise. It was his heart trying to tell Luna something that words couldn't express. And maybe, just maybe, there was a way for her to hear that music without it overwhelming her. Tomorrow would bring answers, or at least the beginning of them. David only hoped that whatever the grandmother had to say, it would show them a path forward together rather than apart. The morning sun was just beginning to warm the forest when David made his way to the sacred clearing, where Luna's grandmother waited. His hands were shaking slightly, not from the cold, but from nerves. Whatever was about to happen would change everything between him and Luna, and he wasn't sure he was ready for it. Elena, Luna's grandmother, sat on a woven mat surrounded by burning herbs that filled the air with a sweet, calming scent. Her silver hair was braided with small feathers and beads, and her eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen many seasons pass. Other elders from the community sat in a circle around her, their faces serious but kind. "Sit, young one," Elena said, her voice gentle but strong. "We have much to discuss." David took his place across from her, feeling the weight of everyone's attention. Luna sat beside him, and he could feel her tension even without her special gift. "First, let me explain what is happening to you both," Elena began. "What you are experiencing is not common, but it is not unknown to our people. We have stories, old stories, about connections like yours." She reached into a small leather pouch and pulled out what looked like an ancient carved stone. "This belonged to my great-grandmother, the one Luna told you about. She faced the same situation you face now." David leaned forward, fascinated. "What exactly is this situation? You are what we call an echo," Elena said, looking directly at him. "Someone whose soul sings at the same frequency as one of our gifted people. It happens perhaps once in 100 years, if we are lucky." "But why is it dangerous?" David asked. Elena's expression grew serious. "Because an echo's emotions don't just make sounds for us, they create a resonance, like two instruments playing in perfect harmony. At first, it's beautiful, but as the connection grows stronger, it can become overwhelming." She gestured to Luna, who was listening intently. "My granddaughter is experiencing what we call emotional flooding. Your feelings are so clear and strong that they're drowning out everything else. Soon, she won't be able to hear anyone else's emotions. She'll only hear yours." David's heart sank. "So we have to stay apart." "That's what I thought too," Elena said. "But 3 nights ago, something extraordinary happened that changed my mind." She looked around the circle of elders, and they all nodded as if they had already discussed this. "During the full moon ceremony," Luna collapsed. "But it wasn't from being overwhelmed by your emotions. It was the opposite. She was overwhelmed by their sudden absence." "I don't understand," David said. Luna spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "You had gone to the other camp that night, remember, to get some equipment. You were too far away for me to hear your emotions clearly, and for the first time in weeks, there was silence." "But isn't that what you wanted?" David asked, confused. "I thought it was," Luna said, tears forming in her eyes. "But the silence was worse than the noise. It felt like the world had lost all its color. I couldn't function without hearing your heart." Elena nodded knowingly. "This is when I knew you were true echoes. Most people think the gift is just about hearing emotions, but for true echoes, it's about completing each other. You don't just hear David's emotions, child. You need them to feel whole." David felt a mix of hope and fear wash over him. "What does this mean for us?" "It means," Elena said, standing up slowly, "that we must attempt something that has never been done before. We must try to balance your connection so that it strengthens both of you instead of destroying Luna." She walked to the center of the circle and began drawing symbols in the dirt with a stick. "The old stories speak of a ritual, a way to bind two souls so that they can share their gifts safely. But it has never been attempted with someone from outside our community." "What would happen to me?" David asked. "You would gain a measure of our gift," Elena explained. "Not enough to hear emotions like we do, but enough to feel the emotional currents of our people. You would become a bridge between our world and yours, and Luna, she would learn to channel your emotional resonance, to use it as a source of strength rather than a burden. Together, you would be more powerful than either of you could be alone." David looked at Luna, seeing hope and fear warring in her expression. "What are the risks?" Elena's face grew grave. "The ritual is intense. It requires you to open your heart completely, to share every emotion you've ever felt. If your connection is not as strong as I believe it is, the process could damage both of your minds permanently. And if it works, Luna asked, if it works, you will be bound together in a way that goes beyond normal human connection. You will feel each other's pain and joy as if they were your own. You will never be able to be truly apart again. The clearing fell silent except for the sound of birds singing in the trees above. David felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This wasn't just about choosing to be with Luna. It was about choosing to become something different, something that belonged to both worlds but fully to neither. I need to know, David said quietly. Luna, is this what you want? Really want? Luna looked at him with eyes full of tears. 3 weeks ago, I was complete. I had my gift, my people, my purpose. But now, when I imagine going back to that life without you, it feels impossible. Your emotions aren't just sounds to me anymore, David. They're the music my heart was always meant to hear. David felt something shift inside him, like a door opening in his chest. Then we try the ritual. Elena smiled for the first time that morning. The ceremony will take place tomorrow night. When the moon is dark, it will require both of you to face your deepest fears and strongest desires. Are you prepared for that? What kind of fears? David asked. The fear of losing yourself, Elena said. The fear of not being enough. The fear of loving someone so much that their pain becomes your pain. These are the barriers that keep souls apart. To become true echoes, you must overcome them. That afternoon, David and Luna walked together through the forest, both lost in thought about what lay ahead. They had agreed to spend the day apart from the community, to prepare themselves mentally and emotionally for the ritual. Are you scared? Luna asked as they sat by the stream, terrified. David admitted, but not of the ritual. I'm scared of what happens if it doesn't work. I'm scared of losing you. Luna reached out and took his hand. For a moment, David could swear he felt something like an echo of her emotions, a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun on their skin. I think it's already started, Luna whispered. The connection. I can feel your fear, but I can also feel your love. It's not just a sound anymore. It's becoming part of me. David squeezed her hand, and together they sat in comfortable silence, preparing for a ritual that would either unite them forever or tear them apart completely. The night before the ritual, David couldn't sleep. He lay in his tent staring at the ceiling, his mind racing with doubts and fears. What if something went wrong? What if the ritual failed and he lost Luna forever? What if it succeeded but changed him into someone completely different? Around midnight, he heard soft footsteps outside his tent. David, Luna's voice whispered. Are you awake? Comin', he said, sitting up. Luna entered quietly, her face pale in the moonlight. I can't do this, she said, her voice shaking. I've been thinking about it all night, and I can't ask you to risk everything for me. David felt his heart drop. What do you mean? The ritual is too dangerous, Luna said. Sitting down beside him, Elena told me more about what could happen. If something goes wrong, you could lose your memory, your personality, everything that makes you who you are. I can't let you take that risk. But what about us? David asked. What about the connection we have? Tears ran down Luna's cheeks. Maybe it's better if we just stay apart. I survived before I met you. I can learn to survive again. David reached out and gently wiped away her tears. Luna, look at me. Do you really believe that? Do you really think we can just go back to how things were? I have to believe it, she whispered. Because the alternative is too scary. They talked until dawn, going around in circles. Luna was terrified of the ritual's risks, while David was terrified of losing her. Neither of them could find a solution that didn't involve sacrifice. When morning came, David made a decision that broke both their hearts. If you're not ready for the ritual, then I'll leave, he said. I'll go back to my old life and try to forget about all of this. Luna's face went white. You would do that? If it's what you need me to do, David said, though every word felt like a knife in his chest. I never wanted to hurt you, Luna. If my presence here is causing you pain, then I'll go. But as the day went on, David's decision created an unexpected problem. Trying to suppress his feelings for Luna and prepare to leave created what she described as emotional static, a chaotic noise that was even harder for her to bear than his open emotions. It's like listening to a radio that's not tuned to any station, Luna told Elena, holding her head in her hands. The sound is awful, but I can't turn it off. Elena watched David packing his research equipment with growing concern. This is worse than I thought, she told the other elders. When echoes try to deny their connection, it creates a feedback loop that can drive both people to madness. Meanwhile, David was struggling with his own problems without Luna's presence. To ground him, he felt like he was losing himself. Colors seemed less bright. Food had no taste. Even breathing felt difficult. He realized that somewhere along the way, Luna had become essential to his existence. That evening, as David loaded his Jeep to leave the next morning, Luna collapsed during the community's evening meal. The emotional static from his suppressed feelings had become so overwhelming that her gift completely shut down. She couldn't hear anyone's emotions at all. Not David's, not her family's, not even her own. It's like being blind, she told Elena weakly. I can't feel the emotional currents of our people anymore. I can't help anyone. I can't even tell if my own family loves me. Elena realized that separation wasn't going to work. The connection between David and Luna had grown too strong to simply ignore. There are only two choices now, she told them both. You either complete the ritual, or you both lose everything that makes you who you are. What do you mean? David asked, rushing to Luna's side when he heard she had collapsed. Your souls have become intertwined, Elena explained, like two trees that have grown together. You can't separate them without killing both. The ritual isn't just about enhancing your connection anymore. It's about saving it. David looked at Luna, who was pale and weak from the emotional overload. What do you want to do? I'm scared, Luna admitted, but I'm more scared of living without you these past few hours. Feeling nothing at all. It was worse than feeling too much. Then, we do the ritual, David said firmly. Whatever happens, we face it together. Elena nodded approvingly. The ceremony will begin at sunset tomorrow. Use today to prepare yourselves, rest, eat, and remember that love is stronger than fear. That night, David and Luna sat together by the stream, holding hands and talking about their hopes and fears. They both knew that by tomorrow night, they would either be united forever or destroyed completely. There was no middle ground. Do you remember what you told me the first day we met? David asked. About something waking up inside me. Luna smiled weakly. It was love, she said. Your heart was recognizing mine before your mind understood what was happening. And now it's not just awake, Luna said. It's fully alive. And it's calling to mine so loudly that I can't hear anything else. David squeezed her hand. Then tomorrow, we teach our hearts to sing together instead of screaming alone. They spent the rest of the night in comfortable silence, both preparing for a transformation that would either save them or destroy them. The ritual would test every aspect of their connection, forcing them to confront their deepest fears and strongest desires. As dawn approached, David realized something important. He was no longer afraid of the ritual itself. He was only afraid of not being worthy of the love Luna was offering him. But perhaps that was the point. The ritual wasn't about being worthy. It was about choosing to grow into someone who could be worthy. Tomorrow would bring answers, one way or another. And whatever those answers were, David and Luna would face them together, their hearts finally ready to become the harmony they were always meant to create. The evening of the ritual arrived with a blood-red sunset that painted the entire forest in shades of gold and crimson. David and Luna stood at the edge of the sacred clearing, watching as Elena and the other elders prepared the ceremonial space. Candles flickered in the growing darkness, and the air was thick with the scent of burning sage and cedar. Are you ready? Luna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David looked at her, seeing his own mixture of fear and determination reflected in her eyes. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, he said, and meant it. The ritual began slowly, with the elders forming a circle around David and Luna. Elena started chanting in the old language, her voice rising and falling like music. Other community members joined in, creating a harmony that seemed to resonate with the very trees around them. The first step, Elena explained, is to open your hearts completely. Hold nothing back. Let each other see every emotion you've ever felt. David closed his eyes and let his mind wander through his memories. He thought about his childhood, his fears, his dreams, his loneliness before he met Luna. He felt vulnerable and exposed, but also strangely free. Beside him, Luna was doing the same thing. For the first time since they met, she wasn't trying to filter or control what she heard from him. She let his emotions wash over her like a river, feeling every joy and sorrow he'd ever experienced. "I can see it all," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Your whole life, every moment that made you who you are. It's beautiful, and I can feel something," David said in wonder. "Not hearing like you do, but feeling. Like there's a warm light connecting us." Elena smiled. "The connection is forming. Now comes the difficult part. You must face your deepest fears together." The ceremony intensified. David found himself confronting his fear of not being good enough for Luna, his fear of losing himself in their connection, his fear of failure. But every time the fear threatened to overwhelm him, he felt Luna's presence supporting him, her love giving him strength. Luna faced her own fears, the fear of losing control, the fear of being a burden, the fear that their connection might fade over time. But David's steady presence helped her realize that these fears were just shadows, not reality now. Elena called out, "You must choose. Will you become one while remaining two? Will you share your gifts while keeping your own identity? Yes?" David and Luna said together, their voices harmonizing perfectly. The moment they spoke, something extraordinary happened. A warm, golden light seemed to flow between them, and David felt his consciousness expand suddenly. He could sense the emotions of everyone in the clearing, not as sounds like Luna heard them, but as gentle currents of feeling that flowed around and through him. Luna gasped as the overwhelming flood of David's emotions transformed into something manageable and beautiful. Instead of drowning her, his feelings now supported her like a foundation, making her own gifts stronger and clearer. "It's working," Elena said, her voice filled with awe. "You're becoming true echoes." The ritual continued through the night, with David and Luna learning to navigate their new shared abilities. David discovered he could feel the emotional health of the community, understanding their needs and concerns in ways that would help him bridge the gap between their world and his own. Luna found that with David's emotional support, she could extend her gift further than ever before. She could help heal emotional wounds in her people, guide them through difficult decisions, and provide comfort in ways she'd never imagined possible. As dawn broke over the forest, the ceremony came to an end. David and Luna stood together, changed but still themselves, connected but still independent. The dangerous flood of emotions had become a gentle stream that nourished both of them. "How do you feel?" Elena asked. "Complete," Luna said, smiling brightly. "For the first time in my life, I feel complete," David nodded, marveling at the new sensations flowing through him. "I can feel everyone's happiness about the ritual working. It's like being welcomed into a family I never knew I needed." 6 months later, David and Luna had created something beautiful together. David used his university connections and his new understanding of emotions to help protect Luna's community. He wrote papers about their culture that helped the government understand why their forest home was so important, but he was careful to keep their deeper secrets safe. Luna became a bridge between her people and the outside world. She helped David understand her community's needs while teaching selected researchers about emotional healing. Together, they created a small center where people could come to learn about different ways of understanding human feelings. Their work attracted attention from around the world. Doctors wanted to learn how emotional healing could help their patients. Teachers wanted to understand how to better connect with their students. Families came seeking help with their relationships. But David and Luna never forgot that their primary responsibility was to Luna's people. They made sure that any outsiders who visited treated the community with respect and never tried to exploit their gifts. Their love story became a source of hope for everyone who met them. People could see how they supported each other, how they had found a way to be completely connected while still being individuals. Young couples would come to them for advice, and elderly people would smile when they saw them together. One evening, as they sat by their favorite stream watching the sunset, Luna rested her head on David's shoulder. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked. David thought about his small apartment back in the city, his routine job, the loneliness he used to feel every day. "Never," he said honestly. "I didn't know what I was missing until I found it." "What do my emotions sound like now?" Luna asked. Curious, David smiled. He had learned to sense her feelings in his own way, not as sounds but as warm currents that flowed through his heart. "They sound like coming home," he said, "like every good thing I ever hoped for." Luna closed her eyes and listened to the gentle melody his emotions created. Where once there had been overwhelming music that hurt her head, now there was a soft, constant song that made her feel safe and loved. "And yours sound like tomorrow," she said, "like all the beautiful things we're going to build together," as the stars came out above them. They sat in comfortable silence. The community around them was thriving, protected by their work and inspired by their example. Children played in the forest, learning both the old ways and new possibilities. Elders shared stories that would keep their culture alive for generations to come. David and Luna had learned that true love wasn't about losing yourself in another person. It was about becoming more yourself than you ever thought possible. Their connection didn't make them weaker. It made them both stronger, more capable of helping others, and building something meaningful. Their story proved that sometimes the most impossible connections are the ones worth fighting for. And somewhere in the world, other people with hearts that sang the same songs were finding each other, inspired by the harmony that David and Luna had created. The forest around them hummed with life, with love, and with the promise that some bonds are strong enough to change not just two lives, but an entire community and everyone they touch.